Well, exciting news, of course. We've been hearing about this potential air bridge that's going to be coming into place between the Isle of Man and Guernsey. Brian Kelly's here, who's, well, you have all sorts of interests, but certainly on this one you've got an interest because you're going to be providing the service, is that right, between here and there, in the sense of Aurigny's going to be the airline, but you're going to be heavily involved in organising.
Very much so. I started this 5 weeks ago and working with Aurigny Airlines in Guernsey. A lot of Isle of Man people might not realise that we have a travel operation in Jersey and Guernsey, so we're very established in the two islands. Yeah. And we have teams of people available on both islands, particularly in Guernsey now, to look after our clients from the Isle of Man that will go down, and also looking after the sales of Guernsey visitors coming into our island.
Okay, 5 weeks ago. That's interesting because no one knew where we were 5 weeks ago.
Well,
this thing must be up in the air completely, isn't it?
It was really having a vision of perhaps where the virus was going in both our islands, and knowing that probably within a certain period there would be this opportunity. And obviously these things do take quite a lot of time to put together, and that's still proving to be the case. So where we now have the legal framework where the governments have agreed that we can have the secure air corridor, we're now obviously having to go into the detail to make sure that we can safely put this thing together, and we understand the risk and the concerns on certain areas with regards to future outbreaks of the virus itself.
Well, let's deal with that, because if an outbreak in either island happens, what happens to the air bridge? Is it shut down or?
Well, we're still actually waiting to get that detail, Paul, so I hope to have that later on today, but we certainly can't launch the flights until we know what would happen to our visitors in Guernsey if there was an outbreak here or there was an outbreak in Guernsey itself.
Will people be required to wear masks and all that sort of thing on the planes?
At the moment, Guernsey have a situation where going through their airport they require travellers to wear masks, and certainly on their aircraft. We're hoping to get that waived, and we're still waiting to hear on that. The requirement is really because their flights are going into the UK, and obviously they're bringing in essential workers and on the patient transfer, so that is a requirement because they're going into the UK. On this secure air corridor, hopefully we can do away with that, but at the moment there would be that requirement.
Doesn't Channel Islands have customs and all that sort of thing? Do people have to take passports? Would they have a duty-free option?
No, any sort of driver's license, passport. They don't actually require a passport to get into Guernsey itself. So people will be able to travel down on driver's license, etc. But
duty-free?
There is duty-free.
Really?
So Aurigny have a great duty-free option. So either at their airport or certainly while you're flying to and from, you can purchase duty-free.
Now, I've been asking these questions when we have our press conferences about, particularly Guernsey was interesting to me because they're going potentially down to a 7-day quarantine idea, if you've probably heard of that. But also they could open up, let's suppose they open up to the UK and the Isle of Man is still not open up to the UK, and therefore people will be coming in and out of Guernsey. There's all sorts of potential issues here. Is there?
I think the 7-day is quite a short trial, and that trial will have been completed before our flights actually start.
Right.
So I think for a period of time we will be the only flight going in from a visitor point of view, and but they obviously, we have to work with the rules and regulations as laid down by the clinicians, and if they deem it to be medically safe, then we haven't got a problem with that.
And will be any sort of checks on temperature or any other
pinpricks? The air corridor is a safe, normal route of travel. So there's no quarantine requirement at either end at any time.
Now this is going to be fantastic news for people in the travel business, and obviously hoteliers. Presumably, that must be a bonus. Are you doing packages, or do people make their own arrangements outside the air?
No, we are exclusively in charge of the packages. We'll be selling the flights, and through our operation in Guernsey and on the Isle of Man. Although you will be able to book flight only on the Aurigny website. The groups will have to come through ourselves. We're getting a lot of interest from sporting groups, from all sorts of groups, both to and from the islands. So that's very interesting. We've got to measure this in relation to the numbers, of course. We're using an Aurigny ATR 72-seater aircraft.
72
and
seats.
72 seats.
And twice a week, is it?
Twice a week. We think they'll be going out on a Wednesday and a Sunday. First flight starting on the 22nd of July. But of course, there are only 72 seats, so it's small numbers. So the business probably will get quite dispersed around the island.
And the pricing policy is already in place. I mean, can someone book a seat on the sites?
Not as yet. The seats will probably go live for sale towards the middle end of next week. But people will be able to register their interest through Richmond Travel in Strand Street and Manlink Travel in Ramsey as from Monday.
Can I ask you, as an aside, how it's been for you? Because I mean, everything's just been so up in the air. The models all went out the window. People's holidays and everything that's gone on. How have you weathered this?
Well, we're in the most crazy industry that you could possibly imagine, Paul, because our offices have been open, although we've been open on a closed door policy, so people haven't been able to come into the office until now. We're now fully open, but we've been in, and our teams have been in every day. Because we have thousands of holidays that are booked for April, May, June, July, right the way through to 2021. And the airlines and the tour operators have only been cancelling their departures really a month before departure, some of them even later than that. So we have to deal with all those cancellations, those deferrals, people that want to transfer to later on this year or 2021, and refunds, of course. So it's been a very, very busy time for us, but of course we've been doing this with no income, so it's been commercially quite difficult.
Right. And another question I put to the Chief Minister, but clearly no one knows the answer to this stage, is if the UK and Boris opens up these air bridges themselves to France, Spain, Portugal, whatever it is, and that people have got a holiday booked with them, with the company, whatever it is, and they can, in the UK, they'll be able to go on that holiday now. But if you're in the Isle of Man, there is no way you can go to the UK and on. Will they be covered by their insurance, or is that one of those things that are yet to be found out?
I think there'll be some common sense, and I think the tour operators will look at the closed border policy of the Isle of Man, and
they'll guarantee the insurance payout, though, are they?
Well, I think what will happen is probably the traveller will be given the option to defer the holiday,
right?
Rather than perhaps
the credit note.
The credit note, which is a new word in travel, isn't it? So rather than refund. So, but I think that will be the case.
And talking about travel and tourism, the Isle of Man Airport, obviously Brunswick, is hardly functioning at the moment, and there's all this business. We lost Flybe. We've got some things in its place, but potentially it looks like London City might be at the end of its.
Well, it's gone. London City has gone.
Well, it's coming back until September, is it?
It finishes on the 13th of September.
What do you think to all this, though?
Well, that was no real surprise to us, and obviously the whole of the global aviation industry is in complete turmoil, and who knows who will be the survivors as we go through this pandemic, which is going to continue in relation to closed borders, probably second waves, continued lockdowns in certain areas. So we're far from being out of the woods on this, and I think from the Isle of Man point of view, we need to look at this as a clean sheet, brand new opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity to work on a strategy for aviation for our island for maybe the next 10 to 20 years. And I'll be certainly encouraging government to look at every opportunity that we have.
Well, Arini is owned by the Guernsey states, but it loses lots of money. Do you see that as an option here eventually? They've got the steam packet.
I think our government should look at every opportunity, and there are many opportunities, many different ways that you can cut this particular cake, and I'll certainly be encouraging and trying to work with government to look at those options and see what might work for the island. Arini, for example, airlines, small islands will be a cost. They're never going to make money. So that there has to be an acceptance of that. And as an island, we have a lot of stuff, a lot of facilities that we have that actually loses money every day, and large amounts, millions of pounds a year, transport and whatever. So I don't think we should be afraid of losing money. I think what we should look at is how it can benefit and drive our economy for the short and long term.
Okay, and this was back to this air bridge to Guernsey. Potential for other ones to come on as and when, I suppose, if they hit the criteria.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is we looked at Belfast, Dublin, we even looked at Iceland, but of course Iceland is now open to the world again, really. So they've got, it's not going to be a safe secure air corridor because everybody else is going in there as well.
That's my point. If Guernsey does the same thing, then all these headaches. Are you going to sleep all right on this one? Because it must be. I don't know about you, but I'll be thinking, gosh, there's so many variants that could happen on this one.
I think we've got all the bases covered, and
Yeah.
I think on the basis that if the governments have to close the corridor because of a new virus outbreak, then people's money will be protected.
So people should book with confidence.
And they'll get a full refund.
Right.
So we'll be working with suppliers who will allow us to offer full refunds if there's an outbreak.
And excuse the pun, if it takes off, could there be more capacity added, or is it?
We have the option. Obviously, Irene have other aircraft. They have larger aircraft, so we could add to the numbers if the demand was there. And this is due to run to the end of August, but we can run into September again if the demand is there. September is a lovely time to be here and in Guernsey. And once the schools have gone back, it might attract a different type of market that want to do a short break or a week break in one of the islands. We have got a lot of interest from visit family and friends, which is good. There's a business interest, sporting groups particularly, and family holidays. The Isle of Man has an awful lot to offer. As does Guernsey, so it's a good opportunity for us to show it off.